Hi, welcome to this preview video for the expansion for Hidden Leaders, which is upcoming for crowdfunding and called Hidden Leaders Forgotten Legends. Now, Hidden Leaders is a great little gem, a fantastic party game with bluffing, with tension, with tug of war. If you haven't heard about it, you're really missing out. So in the video that I'm going to explain the three modules introduced by the expansion that is going to crowdfunding, I'm going to give a basic description of how the core game plays so that you understand if you haven't heard about it, which I doubt, but in case you haven't heard it, it's a magnificent game and you definitely need to check it out. But I'm here to talk to you about the expansion and what it adds. The expansion Hidden Leaders Forgotten Legends comes into this little box, but don't be misguided by the size of the box. It adds so much gameplay and making a fantastic game really more rich and giving it more ways to be played. This is something that in my book is called the definition of a correct and meaningful expansion. So let me tell you a couple of things about the modules, because this game adds three modules in the base game, and of course I like the way that they are introducing them, because you can either play one of the three, two of the three, or all three of them with the core game. So you can understand that immediately the game becomes so much richer with the addition of all these expansion modules from this expansion. We have three different expansions, essentially in one box, modules I should say. One is called the Guardians, and this introduces a number of different cards for heroes that they're giving a different fifth faction in the mix. So just again, for those who don't know anything about Hidden Leaders, you're playing heroes in front of you, hero cards, manipulating some markers on a tug of war track, trying to get specific conditions so that your faction wins, and you're supporting as a hidden leader two of the four factions. Now with this module with Guardians, one more faction is introduced, the Guardians, which of course it gives the name to the module, but they also give powerful abilities. But keep in mind that if you're playing a lot of characters, hero cards from the Guardian module, then you may be supporting also the player who has Guardians in their faction hidden leader card as an agenda, because each time it does, another third marker is being pushed on the track, and if this is ahead of the other two, the green and the red, then they win. Fantastic module, and it's recommended as a first one to try from the mix of the three. Then you have the second module, which is Corruption. Corruption also adds a layer of strategy and interesting things to discover, because you can claim corruption from the card if you have the specific prerequisite to do it, and then this manipulates the faction that your heroes belong, and this can change the tides for the game end, of course, and this is really interesting because it changes the balance and makes the game more dynamic, if you wish. And then the third and last module, which is called Artifacts, it gives artifacts to the players which have a specific number of uses, so they spend artifact tokens by essentially it's that number of turns that they can use the ability of the card. And this really is interesting because they do some very interesting things in the game, but you have to time them correctly if you're playing with the artifacts. Now there are also additional variants to make even more interesting the game if you have also the mini expansion that was introduced in the first Kickstarter, and I think it's also available in retail, which makes the game even more rich. All of these things introduce a lot of gameplay. So enough of me talking, let's stop, join me at the table. I'll show you what comes into this a new expansion from Hidden Leaders, and explain you the rules and give you a nice and good thorough understanding of what's included in this expansion. So join me at the table and see you on the other side. So welcome to this preview video for Hidden Leaders, and specifically for the upcoming expansion Forgotten Legends. Now Hidden Leaders is a little gem, I loved it. This is a fascinating party bluffing fantasy card game with extremely simple rules and fast gameplay, but a ton of fun, not to mention the art and the humor that it's included on the art and the names of the heroes. But I'm going to present you here what the three modules will be included. What are the three modules that will be included in Hidden Leaders Forgotten Legends, the expansion for Hidden Leaders, which is here below. go through the 3 modules and briefly describe them so that you get an idea on what is being introduced in the game. Spoiler alert, it's making the game even more fun and even more different things with different aspects that can really turn the tide and affect the gameplay. So it's really fun. So 3 modules in the upcoming expansion, but if you haven't heard of Hidden Leaders, which I would be surprised so far, I'm just going to briefly describe how the game plays so that you get an understanding. So in Hidden Leaders, which is a fantasy game in a fantastic background, where it's this island where the emperor has died, and they are the 7 protectors of the realm and claimers to the throne that they are fighting. Those are the Hidden Leaders that they are fighting to win the throne for themselves. So this is each of those leaders in the basic game belongs to 2 different factions from the 4 factions of the game. So the 4 factions that you have specifically in this game are the undead with this icon, the water folk with the blue icon, the imperial army with the red icon, and the hill tribes with the green icon. Now, as you see, the board has only 2 markers, a green and a red, only for the imperial army and the hill tribes. That's because you can be supporting the undead and the water folk and winning with one of those, but they don't have an active conflict marker on the board. The board is depicted of various steps in a tug of war, let's say a track starting from 1 all the way to 12, and these are different icons around the board. Just simply to give you an idea, they start from space 4, the 2 of the 4 tribes, Imperial Army and the Hill tribes. Those factions are going to be manipulated, those tracks, tokens on the track from the card play of the players. So just to give you an idea of how the game plays, the game has 4 simple steps. During your turn, you play 1 card from the ones that you have in your hand, and usually what you have in your hand are typically, and this is now heroes from the expansion that I'm showing you, but these are typically heroes with supporting some of the factions. These are the Guardian ones specifically, but normally the heroes, as you would see, belong to one of the 4 basic factions. Here is another faction introduced, which is one of the modules, coming back to this in a bit. You'll be playing a hero from a card from your hand, applying the ability and manipulating the tracks, following the ability, and hopefully supporting your plans so that you can get the winning condition for the faction or one of the 2 factions, because you always support 2 factions, and win the game. Now, so during your turn, you just select a card and play it, or discard 3 cards so that you can get better cards. Then the second step is you draw cards from the harbor, which essentially is this drawing pile from more heroes like those, so that you can get up to 4 cards. You can either draw from the pile of the harbor or from the tavern, which is a display of 3 open cards from the huge pile. Then you discard down to 3 cards, and for the 4th and final step, you replenish the tavern slots if you have used any from those. So simply, most of the times you'll be playing 1 hero in front of your play area, trying to gather heroes from specific banners, factions, in order to win the game and apply also the abilities to manipulate the markers. Now, this is simple, the game, and the game is triggered once, depending on the number of players. Here's for a 6-player game, 1 player has 5 open, revealed hero cards in front of their play, a single player among all players participating in the game. When that happens, the game is triggered, and then what players do is they go through a sequence, and again this is a Greek card, but the iconography is very simple, to see if any of the 4 factions wins the game. Still, I'm describing the core game. So first of all, and this is a trump for the winning condition, you check the undead army. So if the player supporting this faction has managed to get those 2 markers on the black area of the track, no matter where they're sitting, they win and everyone else loses. So if you're supporting this faction, you're the winner. If that's not the case, then you go to the waterfolk, and you just want to see if those markers are on the same spot or 1 spot next to each other. No matter who is advancing, doesn't matter. If that happens, that's the waterfolk winning. And then the normal conditions for the Imperial Army red and the Hill tribes green is if 1 is advancing by 2 or more, so in this case Imperial Army wins, or in this case, Hill Tribes wins. And of course, they should be both in the normal area and not in the black area, because then the first would have triggered and the undead would have won. So these are the basic rules of the game, and the game sounds extremely simple. It is. It can be taught in minutes, and it's really fun through the card play, the manipulation, the tension, the bluffing, etc. But you're here to find out more about Hidden Leaders, Forgotten Legends. So let me guide you through the backstory of the expansion and the 3 independent modules that you can either play one by one, adding it to the core game, or mix them all together for a super uber game of Hidden Leaders. So what's the background story? The mother has awakened 4 unheard of children of the emperor, called upon an ancient goddess to complete and struggle for the throne. The ritual awakened the powerful guardian spirits of the island and unleashed a wave of transformative energy. Yet, the mother and her spirits have been defeated before, thanks to the powerful artifacts that are in possession of Oshra is the island, most credible families. Will the new Guardians leaders take over the throne, or will the established powers crown a new ruler of Oshra? So the game, as I said, comes with 6 hidden leaders. You're going to be keeping this identity hidden and revealing at the end of the game. And in the game, you will be supporting 2 of the 4 factions in the core game. Now, in this expansion, you'll have new leaders that they also introduce one new faction, the Guardians. And this is the icon, the new icon of the new faction. I'm going to explain it. So let's see quickly the overview of this expansion. So this expansion for Hidden Leaders comes with 3 modules. You have the Guardians, and this is the icon of the Guardians. You see the icon clearly, also on the hero cards here, but this is the icon of the Guardian. You have the Corruption, which has this icon. This is a Corruption icon for the Corruption module. And you have the Artifacts, which is the Artifacts module. It has this Holy Grail icon. So you can add any number of these modules in the base game, and it's recommended starting by playing the Guardian modules, the first one, which is this one, this module with these cards, then introducing and mixing module 2 and module 3 before you combine multiple modules at the same time. This will make it easier to get started. And of course, if you have first-time players, it's recommended that they play at least 3 times the core box game before start adding modules. Not that it's difficult, but it will make them enjoy it easier and then introduce them the modules stepwise. So, reminding you from the base game, the setup for the base game is: first you shuffle 6 leader cards and deal 1 to each player face down. So they keep it face down so no one knows what they have. Then you place the 2 markers on the position 4 of the track, the red and the green on the starting position of the power track. Then you find the special buried Emperor hero card, which is this one, and you place it next to the graveyard. This is the icon for the graveyard. And again, there is a fantastic icon overview which describes all the locations. This is the harbor, the draw pile, this is the wilderness, the discard pile. That means face up, face down, player, tavern, and graveyard. And these are the factions of the game, at least in the core game. There's also the Guardian in the expansion. Then you shuffle the remaining hero cards and place the pile face down next to the harbor to make a drawing pile over there. You draw 3 hero cards and fill the 3 slots of the tavern over there, as you see. Randomly you choose a starting player, and then you deal 5 hero cards to each player. These are cards, heroes like that. These belong to the expansion again, but they have the same philosophy, okay? So you draw and deal face down 5 hero cards to each player, and from that, each player will place 1 face down in front of them next to their leader card, so they will have the leader, and 1 face down hidden hero next to them. And let's say I chose this one next to my leader. A second one will be discarded on the wilderness, the discard pile, and they will have a hand of 3 heroes secretly from the other players in front of them. This is the starting hand. So this is the setup of the base game. Now, let's introduce the modules. First module is the Guardians. Reminding you, this is the icon of the Guardians. The components for the Guardians are 4 Guardian leaders. Let me show you the new leaders. The art is phenomenal in this game. I really would like and hope and fingers crossed that they use it in a universe and in another game. It's fantastic art. The artist is amazing. So it would be great if it's used in more expansions for the Hidden Leaders game, or if the company makes another game out of this universe. It's amazing. So these are the 4 leaders. You have Ulz, the rooted. Long ago, Ulz, or Ulk, if I'm pronouncing correctly, most probably Ulk, merged his life force with an ancient tree, yet he also began to share its anger. And you see, this player who receives this hidden leader face down, they're supporting 2 factions, the Hill Tribes and the Guardians, which is the 5th and new faction introduced in this module. Then it's Irafel, the lyrical. Irafel listened to the songs from below. When they began to sing, the dead were sure to follow them. Again, undead and Guardians, 2 factions for this hero, leader, I should say. Tisa, the inventive. Once Tisa secretly created the first mechanical being since her mother's return, she's acting more openly, belonging to the Imperial Army and the Guardians. So they all have a common Guardian, as you see, faction. And the last one is Vima, the Deep. As a high priestess of the Waterfolk, the most powerful creatures of the deep obey Vima's command, and she belongs to the Waterfolk and the Guardians. So these are the 4 new leaders that are introduced with the module Guardians. So you have a new faction, the Guardians, 4 new leaders to go there, and there's some changing in setup. So in step 1, when you randomly distribute the hidden leaders to the players. Now, since you have introduced the Guardians over there, you'll use those, shuffle them to create a deck and deal cards from those to the players. But depending on the number of players, you'll put a number of Guardian leaders in the main leader deck. So for example, with 2 players, you use 2 base leaders and 1 Guardian leader. Whether for 6 players, you use 6 base game leaders and 2 Guardian leaders. And then of course, out of those, you will not know for sure if a Guardian leader was selected or not. And that will make the pool for the players to draw a hidden leader. The remaining ones will be returned to the box face down, so you don't know. In step 2, when you place the markers on the starting position, you also place the Guardian marker. And again, keep in mind that this is a prototype. It looks complete, but I don't know if they're going to make any more changes. And this is placed on the spot 1 of the power track. Then in step 3, you shuffle the 20 Guardian heroes, and these are the extra heroes that are going to be shuffled in the main deck. And you create a full deck of hero cards together with the ones from the base game. So let me show you quickly some of the new introduction of the heroes. They continues to be humorous and funny and very, very nice art. So just quickly, briefly going through some of the cards. The art is phenomenal. And here, of course, you see that all of these new heroes, they have one of the common factions, plus they belong to the Guardian faction. So there you have it. These are the new cards, plus the 3 ones over there. The Abyss Ogre, the Demonic Darter, and the Patient Protector. Yeah, that's great. More fun for sure, finding out who's what. So you take those cards and you mix them thoroughly. So these cards have the same back as you see with the main heroes from the base game. You mix them thoroughly with this deck and you create a deck from which you're going to be drawing cards. Last but not least, you use the 6 Guardian Fate cards somewhere close to the board, because you're going to be drawing from them at a specific step of the game. I didn't get any Fate Guardian cards, but I got a die and which has a result. So I think maybe there's going to be an opportunity to maybe unlock it with stretch goals, or I don't know if it's going to be included at the beginning of the game. I would definitely prefer the die instead of the cards, because this looks really, really nice. It's a good quality die. But in any case, it shows a modifier and the icon of Guardians. Now, the rest of the steps, like the core game, are followed, and then you start playing. So what happens when you play with Guardian heroes? You see, you have Guardian heroes. Guardian heroes work exactly like normal heroes, except for the following changes. They have, of course, as you have seen, the additional Guardian icon, which indicate that they belong to the Guardian faction, on the top left of the card. And when a Guardian hero's ability is performed, besides the manipulation of the markers, which is a common thing for the common hero cards, when their ability is performed by playing the card essentially, whenever this ability is performed, what you do is you move the marker +2 on the power track. So you're going to be moving this guardian marker +2 on the power track. So he's going to be climbing and climbing and climbing towards at the end of the track. So it is important because these cards are strong and they give you good abilities, but also you may be voluntarily or non-voluntarily supporting the guardian leader player by pushing his the faction of the token of the faction higher and higher. So this is something that happens whenever a player plays one of those guardian heroes introduced in this expansion, in this module. But keep in mind the guardian marker doesn't move +2 if the guardian enters the game in any other way, for example being turned over, exchanged with another card, or placed in a party without being performed, etc. So only when a player is playing the guardian's hero ability. When the guardian's hero ability is performed, then you have the +2 movement of the respective marker. So whenever a guardian is put on the graveyard, let's say that here's the graveyard next to this icon. And here I should mention that at the setup, when we mix these heroes, the guardian heroes in the main deck, we also mix the mother of a guardian, which is this card. Just keep that in mind. I left it aside to specifically show it to you. So whenever a guardian is put on the graveyard in this location, the player who performed the ability to put the guardian in the graveyard also does the following. They draw 2 guardian fate cards, probably using the die in this prototype, or maybe the final game. Then they choose one of them, revealing the chosen card and performing it. Then they shuffle the 6 guardian fate cards again. So I'm thinking that with the die you don't have the cards in shuffling unless they make it an extra unlock or something, but in any case you would be rolling 2 times the die as it seems. Abilities of guardians can be powerful, keep that in mind. However, you may be supporting the guardian leader by playing guardian heroes. So what happens when you win with a guardian leader? Let's say you had Tisa, for example, and you win the game. How you win the game. The guardian module comes with 4 additional leaders, and each of these leaders can either win with one of the 4 factions, as I said, or claim victory with the guardian faction. A leader can claim the guardian victory if the guardian marker is ahead of both the red and the green marker at the game's end. So in this scenario, the guardian, if there is a player in play in our game with supporting the guardian faction, they would win because it is ahead of both the red and the green marker, both the Imperial Army and the Hill Tribes. A leader can claim the guardian victory if the guardian marker is ahead, or of both of the red and the green marker at the game end, or they can still pursue the other faction the leader is supporting, like with the other hidden leaders. A guardian victory trumps all other faction victories. That means that when we start checking for victory, we first check the undead, then the water fox, then the Imperial Army, and then the Hill Tribes. Now we have the guardians which are on top. So that means that this trumps the rest of the faction victories, and it has to be checked first. If the guardians win the game, but no leader is supporting the guardians, you ignore the guardian marker, no matter if it is ahead, and then you proceed with the next rules to identify who is winning, as in the base game. If 2 guardian leaders claim the guardian victory, so if 2 players were supporting the guardian faction and they show it, and the guardians are winning by their winning condition, then you resolve ties as in the base game, but starting to look at who of the 2 players who is tying or more has the most guardian heroes in their play area played. So some other rules to consider. If a hero card refers to the leading or trailing marker, you only consider the red and the green marker and ignore the guardian marker for these abilities from the core game. If a hero card refers to a faction, guardians do also count as a faction. And if you play the guardian module with 2-player game, you remove 4 guardian cards: Crabbing Clamp Monster, Possessed Poodle, I like to see that after the video, Half-Sleeping Hobgoblin, and Well-Ironed Golem. So this is all you need to know about Golem, about the guardians. Nice new faction, new tension, new cards, and a new thing to keep your eye on if someone is supporting or not the guardians. And this is a recommended module to start mixing into the base game for your first time. Then you have the module 2, which is the corruption. and this is a very interesting module as well. So in this module you have the corruption tokens, 18 corruption tokens, you have a buggy, and you have one corruption card, which depicts the claim corruption for 2 to 5 players or 6 players, respectively. And here's the 2 spots for the corruption. So you put the tokens on those 2 spots and you're able to claim corruption from the card, respectively. A corruption token has 2 sides. The front side has an influence on the given hero and the back side with the corruption icon. And these are the corruption icons. There are some changes in setup. To set up the corruption module, you add another 8th step in the game setup. So you set up the corruption bag, you add all corruption token in this baggie, over here. You place the claim corruption card next to the harbor, over here, or on top of the harbor, of the deck, with the correct side according to the number of players. So assume that we're playing with 6 players, so we place it like that. And then we draw 2 corruption tokens from the bag and place them on the claim corruption card with the back side face up. So here and here, and this is always placed next to the harbor, and you put the corruption, the tokens drawn on top of those 2 icons. Claim corruption. A player can claim corruption at any time from the card during their turn if any one player has fulfilled the required stated on the claim corruption card. If a player claims corruption, you follow the below steps and you claim depending on the condition mentioned next to the corruption token position. So first, the player who claimed the corruption takes the corruption token from the claim corruption card of the level they fulfilled. All players draw 1 token from the corruption bag. Every player has to put their token on any one hero of their own in turn order with their front side face down. This hero is now corrupted and players cannot put a corruption token on an already corrupted hero, and the player who claimed corruption has to put down both tokens. A player can only claim corruption token once per turn, even if they are able to fulfill both requirements on the card. So what is a corruption effect? First of all, you have a faction change. As you see, faction changes on these tokens, and once you place it on your card, they will be changing faction. A corrupted hero changes their faction loyalty for the game end when determining the winner. And during the game, corrupted heroes keep their faction for purposes of performing hero abilities. Second, you have the guardian protection. When a player wants to bury the corrupted hero, you may flip the token and prevent the corrupted hero from being buried. Then you put the guardian protection token back into the bag. And when any player wants to bury any one hero of the player with the corrupt hero, this player may flip the token and bury the corrupted hero instead of the hero target of the other player. Then put the guardian protection token back into the bag. The corrupted hero counts as a guardian at the end of the game, and they will still have the guardian protection token placed on their card. So this adds an additional layer of strategy and fun and things to consider because of the corruption, because it changes things a lot. And there are a couple of more rules to consider. For example, if a corrupted hero is buried or taken back into the hand, you put the corruption token back into the bag without revealing it. If a corrupted hero is turned over, the corruption token remains on the card and remains hidden. If the corruption hero is exchanged with another card, the corruption token remains on the card as well. And if a player may look at any time on the face down hero, they may instead look on the corruption token. Players may always look on any corruption token on heroes in their party. Guardian heroes who are corrupted with a different faction from corruption token remain guardians if you play the guardian module together with the corruption module. And finally, heroes whose abilities affect corruption tokens can never affect the corruption tokens on the claim corruption card. There is also a small variation: pass to get corruption token. Whenever a player decides during step 1 on their turn to pass, not play a card from their hand, they may draw 1 corruption token and put them on any hero according to the rules that I just explained. So this also adds a layer of variation in the game. So interesting module, adding corruption and adding different balance and different things to consider, and will definitely give a different spin in the game as well. Third and last module is the artifacts, module 3. And here are the artifacts and the tokens of the artifacts, which are those over here. So you have for the component 6 artifact cards that you see here on the side of the board, and you have 18 artifact tokens which look like that. There are a couple of quick changes on the game setup. To set up artifact module, you add the 8th step or 9th if you also include the module corruption to the game setup. So here now what you do is every player chooses 1 artifact, and if you cannot agree randomly, you deal 1 artifact to each player from the ones available. Remember, you have 6. And then Every player puts their artifact face up next to their face down leader card, so it's visible to the other players, and every player takes the number of artifact tokens indicated on the artifact card, 2 or 3. For example, here we have 2-shot crossbow indicating 2. That means I take 2 artifact tokens and I place it on the card. And this goes next to my hidden leader card, which is face down. If you play the artifact modules in a 2-player game, you remove also possessive Palantir artifact. It doesn't play for the 2-player game. And what about the artifact powers? Now, every artifact comes with a unique special power and players can use them as specified on the card. Whenever a player uses the power of an artifact, they put 1 artifact token from their artifact card back into the box. So they have 2 uses for this card. They remove 1 because they use the artifact 1 time. Artifacts with a thunder icon like this one, and maybe I should show you up close, like this one. For those, a player can use the ability at any point during step 1 of their turn when they play a card. This can be before or right after they play a card. Or artifacts with the sun timer icon. A player can use the ability after step 4 of their turn, fill up of the tavern with cards. This is when you use those type of artifacts. And these are really, really unique and special abilities. Let me show you the 6 cards. Most probably could be that some more can be unlocked, depending on stretch goals, I don't know. So you have the 2-shot crossbow, 2 uses. You bury anyone revealed or hidden hero card. Tenacious Totem. Possessive Palantir, this is not used on a 2-player game. Soundless Shoes. And Secretive Sea Horn, as well as Endless Bag of Seeds. Okay, so there you have it. These are the 6 artifacts. For sure, they give a lot of different things to try during your turn with their uses. And you also have the Variation Royal Influence. Just to make the artifacts module even more exciting, it is recommended to do some adjustment when you use the Queens and Friends expansion. I have it in Greek, but this is the main expansion. I think it was available during Kickstarter as well. So you search the deck of heroes for the 3 queens, the Emperor's Best Friend and the Mother of Guardians, if you also use module 1 Guardians. You place them face up next to each other above the Wilderness. And when you use a special power of an artifact, instead of putting the artifact token back into the box, you choose one of the 4 or 5 if you're using the artifact, the Guardians module, face up cards, and you put the token on their card respectively. You guess one of the 4 factions, turn over cards from the top of the harbor according to the number of tokens you've chosen, and if you succeed correctly, then you take the chosen card into your hand and claim it. Then you put all cards that you have drawn from the harbor on the same order, either on top of the bottom of the harbor, and you continue playing, and this way you use also these extra cards since you can take them as I described. So there you have it, 3 interesting modules adding a lot of things into the game. You can either play them all together or separately, whatever you choose. For sure, this makes a wonderful game even better and more full with more options. That goes without saying, but there are a lot of games out there that they try to take advantage of their popularity, especially when they're hot and they're new, and they're trying to release more expansion that not necessarily give a lot of gameplay or a lot of things to add to the core game. This is not the case here by far, and I like to be very, very clear about it because I think it deserves this credit as it is. This game adds 3 different modules which introduce a lot of gameplay. They all feel different from each other and they give a different direction in the dynamic of the game. This is a party game. This is not a heavy game. It tends to be funny, humorous, and people enjoy it, but still the direction that it's given from the different modules adds a layer to the game and makes it even more interesting. I'm not sure which module I prefer more at the moment from among the 3, but for sure each of them feels very, very unique and different. So that means immediately that gameplay and the different things to try in the game expand from Hidden Leaders. And this is a nice thing because Hidden Leaders is such an enjoyable experience. I really had a great time playing the game because I like bluffing games, I like tug of war games, and the rules are so simple in the game and so fun that you're just simply playing cards, but there are a lot of things beyond that, trying to understand what your opponents are supporting, try to push your agenda for the faction that you are supporting, not making yourself too loud or too seen, because people will jump on you and try to stop you if they can. So this is really nice and fun, and really has a nice ending and a nice dynamic and climax to the end when you reveal the winner and the winning faction, when you try to see who won. But the 3 modules really add to that, because they build on the core idea, which is phenomenal, and they start adding more and more things, not necessarily by making them complex. It is advised that you have played the core game to make sure that it's more easy to absorb and digest the modules, but giving more options. So the Guardians are really nice because you have one more 5th faction in there. The Corruption is nice because you are having switching of loyalties and switching of what your heroes are supporting for game end calculation points. Then you have the artifacts, which are really boosted and strong cards, and they can make a difference when you use them correctly and you time them correctly into your card play. So all these things really add a lot of value, in my opinion, to the game. If you haven't tried Hidden Leaders, it's a must. Now that they are reprinting with all the extras from the Kickstarter together with the new expansion, I think it's an opportunity for people to discover it if they haven't discovered yet. But if you have backed the first game, and I think a lot of people have bought it on retail or backed it on Kickstarter, I think this is one of those expansions. I consider them and characterize them as not to be missed, in my opinion, because they only improve and make a great game even more enjoyable and fun. So there you have it. This is Hidden Leaders, Forgotten Legends, a great expansion coming to crowdfunding.